And here we are. We are live. We are live. Hey there, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Let's see here. We're going to take a moment to do a audio check. I forgot my microphone. Just want to make sure that the onboard mic is good. We got some folks piling in. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Kyle here from Tippecanoe Herbs. I'm at the shop. Check it out. This is an awesome place. Herb shop. Got herbs over my shoulder, herbs all around me. These are my buddies. And I'm vibing high because this is the small business weekend. And we had a big old snowstorm in Milwaukee, but people still came out to see us. And it was just such a blessing. I'm feeling really blessed and I'm feeling really good. Let's see here. Cabo Sun. I went live at 3:33, and Cabo Sun says, yesterday was the 333rd day of the year. I was going to do this stream yesterday, but I thought, I felt like more 333s about the 30th of 11/3. I don't know. But I should have stuck with my gut. That's cool. And going to smoke some herbs. That's cool. We're going to talk about herbs and smoking and Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. You know, Aries, the first fire sign, says, smoke them if you got them. I'm the match. Let's go. And Leo says, hey, put some logs on me and toss me around a little bit. Come put your attention onto me. And Sagittarius says, I'm going to go outside and smoke some. I'm going to blaze a trail. Let's go. Which of our cousins want to go for a walk? You're going for a walk to smoke. That happens in Sagittarius season, doesn't it? Cool. So I wanted to just kind of vibe here. I have some notes on what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to cover Salvia, which is also called sage. That's the botanical name for sage. I wanted to cover salves. I wanted to cover some things about salves. What else do I want? Sagittarius, and just kind of vibe here and hang out. And I opened up the lines here. I'm going to put them. You can see it in the comments there. So if you're interested in giving us a call, give us a call. Call on in. First, I want to say behind me there, that picture behind me, that's the work that I did today. I made like about 100 different tins of salves. It's kind of hard to tell from this picture here, though, but one of my favorite things in the whole world is seeing a table filled with little circles of different colors of the salve throughout their curing stage. So over here on the right side, you can see, for those of you listening, I'll describe, there's the ones that have already cured and the ones that are starting to cure at the bottom there and up at the top. That's Joints Joy salve. I guess since it's a free herb lesson, we'll throw in a commercial here. Joints Joy salve. This one's brought to you by Joints Joy and Sagittarius Incense Blend. If you smoke them, if you got them, throw another log on and let's go for a walk with the cousins. And this is one of my favorite products that we make. I would say it's one of the most reliable. The Joints Joy salve. I would recommend this for anyone who's sore. And you know what? I just first time this year since March or something like that I had to shovel 8 to 12 inches of lake effect heavy snow, and so I'm going to be slathering myself up with some Joints Joy later. Oh yeah, getting myself nice and on my hips, nice and limber for Sagittarius season. I've been working really hard on a lot of things, the shop, keeping things up, doing retail, and preparing this, which is a dedicated podcast. So I got a new name for a podcast. I got some guests lined up. I got some guests in my mind that I'm waiting to ask. And so I wanted to reveal the name of the podcast here. So I'll do that in just a second. But first I want to talk about another thing of work that I'm doing, which is I am preparing a very large dental herbalism course. And I'm kind of living up to my ancestral name in a way. I really feel like the ancestors kind of like putting a little wind in my sails when I started this project. I was asked by a group of friends that are herbalists that have an herb company, herbal education branch, I guess you could say, school, if I would do a class on dental herbalism. And I said, you know what? I worked in the dental field for 15 years. And during that time, I started moonlighting as an herbalist and a clinical herbalist. And I have so much dental herbalism knowledge that I cannot wait to like dive back into that material, because there's really a big void in the, oh, that's Kabir. What's up, Kabir? That's what I thought. I thought it was you, Kabir. So really to synthesize all the stuff that I've learned about herbalism and vitalism, really, and also the true meaning of herb, or I should say like oral disease, including cavities and cavitation and the energy of cavitation, as opposed to, you know, what the people who say mercury is safe for you claim that is the cause of cavities. It's much different. So in my research, and by the way, that dental course, there's going to be a big, you know, you pay for it dental course, but there's going to be a 3-part free mini course that's going to be released in January. I recommended January because I said that's Capricorn season, and that's a time of year that people insurance benefits kick back in, and they say, all right, now I can start getting some work done. And they go outside and they have the gnashing of the teeth because they're in the inverno of the inferno and Helsinki hell. And people start breathing in through their mouth and they say, oh, that one feels a little tender. I better go to the dentist and check it out. And so I have a lot of tips, a lot of dental tips that we can not only work with as like at-home stuff, but just bringing your awareness to energetic qualities of what's going on with the teeth. So there's going to be a 3-part mini class on that that's free, and I hope that you join us for that. But one thing that in my early research that I found very interesting, I wanted to mention this right off the top here. And it made me think of in the clinical work, we're looking for 3 things to kind of corroborate a particular condition. So maybe I see it in the tongue, maybe it's in the pulse, and maybe somebody said something regarding that particular organ system. So it's like 1, 2, 3, got it matched up. Now I got a vein. Where it's like if it's just on the tongue or if it's just in the pulse, and it's not really enough information. And so that reminded me of how to tell if a duck is a duck. So if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it puts its ass up into the air when it feeds, it's a duck, right? But if it just quacks like a duck, it's not necessarily a duck. You have to have all 3. Okay, so that brings me to the word quack. Do you know where this word, the word quack, like a quack doctor? A quack doctor is somebody who claims medical claims, but they actually have like maybe pseudoscientific claims, or they're not actually a doctor. And I have I'm rubber, you're glue, bounces off me and sticks to you force field about the quack, because I used to set up at farmers markets, and so people would come by and just look, and they would make their comments and walk away sometimes. And I also was tapping into the traveling medicine show archetype, and even though I'm back there every week, just like the traveling medicine show would be, there's in the subculture of the traveling medicine show, like the one who's going to sell you the stuff and then collect all the money and get out of there. And so that's where the word quack came from. In fact, it's related to mercury, of all things, and that is mercury fillings. So there was, back in 1833, there was a group of brothers, they were called, the Krakoor brothers. Edward and Moses Krakoor, who were actually uncle and nephew. They weren't actually brothers. They just called themselves the Krakoor brothers but there was some interesting nepotism, Mercury, Neptune switcheroony going on there. So that would be the first clue that there's something up with these guys. And they took an invention that was made in 1816 by a French dentist, and they brought it over to the United States. And that invention, what they called the Royal Mineral Succedaneum. The Royal Mineral Succedaneum. And what it was advertised as a restorative thing for the teeth, because prior to this stuff, people would have their teeth drilled and they would put gold in. So you can imagine that would get really expensive, and that would also take away the amount of access that people had to dentistry. So they brought in this new putty, this new salve, if you will. And that salve with the Royal Mineral Succedaneum by the Krakow brothers was the first mercury amalgams. So they would take mercury, and by the way, these Krakow brothers, they were jewelers, if you know what I'm saying. They were also jewelers. So they would take silver coins and mercury and put them together and mix them up, and now they have this amalgam filling. And they were entrepreneurs. They were not doctors, but they presented themselves as Dr. Edward and Dr. Moses Krakow. By the way, the name Krakow is interesting too, because Kur means quare, heart, and Kra means like crevice. So they were the Heartbreaker brothers. That's what the name Krakow kind of means, is like heartbreaker. But they weren't even brothers. So anyway, they come over to America, 1833. They market this stuff, Royal Mineral Succedaneum. I can't say that word right. Mercury fillings, easy, inexpensive alternative to gold, which were the standard. And they made a fast fortune. So fast and so quickly that they headed out of town as soon as the warrants started piling up, based on complaints of malpractice and from all sorts of injury that people were facing from mercury poisoning. And so they went back to England, they got out of here with all their money. All right. Then the American Dental Association didn't exist at the time. That came out in like the late 1800s, but at the time it was like the Society for Dental Surgery or something like that. They outlawed it. They said this stuff is toxic. There's no way, and that I don't know, governing corporate, conglomeration that kind of oversaw the regulatory aspects of dentistry dissolved, and the ADA came in and they adopted this stuff, and since then it's safe, right? It's safe to use. Well, these two guys were called quacks. And the word that made me dig into the word quack, because the quack is somebody who quacks. Hello, hey, come and get it. Come buy my salve. Come buy my salve. Try my product. Try it. Hey, come and take it. Take their money, count their money, put it in the wagon, fly up, fly by night. So the quack was, the original name comes from the Dutch word for quack salber. Quack salber, as in somebody, there's a dispute to this. Let me put this on here. This is Wikipedia. Let's read this here. Quack salber, as in somebody who quacks like a duck to buy an incompetent doctor, to buy the salve. But it's disputed. Obviously, it's disputed, because that's a very ridiculous etymology. Obviously, quack salver Quack Salver, quicksilver. If we look at the word Salve or salve, it's the same word, or it's quicksilver. They were the quicksilver quacks. That's what they were. So I think this is really interesting that the word quack, as in the doctor who gives you poison just to make money, is corresponded to the those who place the amalgam mercury fillings, which is also known as quicksilver. So that's the quicksilver. So what is going on? We have life is beautiful. It sure is. Thanks for being here. I love that. Yeah, you know what? Yesterday I was so blessed. It was Small Business Saturday, and it was snowing so hard, and multiple people came in that mentioned on the way here to the shop, they said, I was on my way here, and I was just thanking God that you're here in the community. And I know this, I really don't want to, I'm not bragging right now. I'm actually saying that this humbled me. For some people, that might go to their head, and they might be like, oh yeah, people are thanking God for me. But for me, it got me out of my head. And I was so grateful for that, because prior to them, to those things and reflecting on that, I was in my head robbing myself of joy, comparing the experience that we had to previous Small Business Saturdays where lots of people were here, there's lines out the door, or other businesses around town that might be like, having a lot of people there. And it was robbing me of my joy. And so I'm actually so grateful for y'all and this beautiful life. So thank you so much for being here. So salve, quack salber, the quack silver, the quacks who place the silver. Cucumber is in the house. What's up? Yeah. Nice to see you, buddy. That reminds me of Salvia, as in Salvia officinalis, the sage plant. And I'm going to bring up, this is in the thumbnail. Let's see here. Share screen. This one. This is the thumbnail here. Is that on the screen? There we go. This is a picture of the sage in my garden. I took that yesterday when it was snowing. So beautiful. And I kind of wanted to talk about this plant today just because it's Sagittarius season. And to me, there's really one of the great plants to describe the medicine and the archetype of Sagittarius is this plant. So if we think about Sagittarius first, the archer that holds tension for looking at a target. And the mantra for Sagittarius is, sometimes people say, I see, which shows that Sagittarius has a rulership over vision, but also I aim, which I think is really interesting, because if you drop the I in the word aim, you get I am, which is the Aries mantra. So I like I see, because when we're talking about Sagittarius and the plant sage, it has a connection with truth. And it's not just about what we see, like our visual capacity and how we can hit a target or how we could hone in on the bullseye, but it's also about eyes to see. What's in front of us that we're seeing, and can we portray it outwards truthfully? Can we express what we see truthfully? And when sometimes we see something, we see the truth in front of us, and it's not expressed, I think that some of the ailments that come up from that can be remedied with sage as a means of helping with that particular type of expression. So sage, salvia, oh man, it's such an awesome herb, because there's so many ways to talk about this plant. Like if we looked in some of the herb books, it would say a variety. It would have like a whole page of the different uses of the plant, but I'm not the type of teacher that likes to teach about uses. I like to talk about the energetic qualities of plants. And so therefore we can kind of make up our own and have our own way of relating to the way that the plant works. Because a lot of times they seem at odds. Like, for example, one of the well-known things in the nursing world is drinking sage tea to dry up breast milk. Like, drink some sage tea, it stops breast milk. Well, there's also an herbalist named Juliette de Berkeley-Levy. It's a pretty famous herbalist. And she actually says it helps with milk production. She uses the sage that grows all around her property and feeds it to her goats to help with their milk production. So now all of a sudden we have something that seems like it's kind of at odds. And so how do we make sense of that when we're talking about uses of the plant? It's best to understand the energetic qualities of the plant first. And so if you have some sage, I invite you to put it in your mouth or drink it, or put this thought in, or this lesson in your mouth next time you come in contact with some sage. Or even just in your mind now, just kind of taste some sage and try to feel the energetic qualities and see what happens. It's definitely aromatic. Everyone knows you can go up to sage and rub it and it has this sagey smell. But when you taste it, it has an astringent quality. It tightens, it tones, it holds the form. And one can say that a lack of tone creates a lack of the vital productive aspect of an organ system. And another way we could say, from tightening up and holding that tone back together, it actually tightens up the leaks. So as far as leaking goes, we could think of leaking in terms of like spiritual leaking your attention all over the place, leaking your emotions all over the place. But certainly physically leaking, like as in your nose is running. Right now I have like my left eye is running. It's running away. And if you ever seen a mama who has a 2-month-old or a 3-month-old baby that starts crying, that is something that will produce breast milk. She'll start leaking out onto her shirt. And so this is a plant that helps with toning up that leaking quality. And it does so by, toning. So one of the opposite of toning would be relaxed. It helps tone the relaxed state. Well, relaxed is kind of a loaded word because a lot of people are like, hey, I want to be more relaxed. I'd prefer to, I just want to be more relaxed. But then you'd be leaking out all over the place. Then you'd be spilling out. So when you're all done with all your goo spilling out all over the place, then come back to some sage and we'll tighten you back up again. All right. So one of the ways that we could see that as a signature for the sage is the leaf. Like if you look at the leaf kind of closely, it looks like a wrinkled old person. Doesn't it? Like a all dried up old person's hand. Not all old people, I'm making generalizations here. Some old people are really good at keeping their moisture and keeping their oils and fats within their body. And certainly this is the difference between something like sage, which tones and improves the moisture from the oil standpoint, as opposed to like emollients like marshmallow and slippery elm, which have more of a aqueous structuring of the water element. So it's through the oils of our body that we have not only the cholesterol that feeds our brain, but also nourishes our skin, but also nourishes our hormones. And here I go back to the what seems like a dichotomy between drying up breast milk supply and improving breast milk supply in the case of Juliet Barclay Levy's goats. And to be honest, I've never recommended sage to any woman who's trying to breastfeed more. I'm just showing here an example of how uses can be at odds, and it's better to work with the thing that we can all experience and all agree on about the plant. It's definitely astringent. It's astringent. And another thing that it is, it's got a very nice warming volatile oil, and that volatile oil breaks up congestion, it breaks up stagnation, and I always imagine the body, the energy of the body centrifugally moving out like a lasso whenever aromatics are introduced. It just like opens it up, and it brings our consciousness from deep inside our body to out there, wherever's out there. So it dispels congestion. There's a place going by. No, ambulance. All right. So that's sage. That's Salvia. Salvia officinalis. And Salvia is an awesome genus of the mint family. So it's in the Lamiaceae family, the mint family. The mint, the mind. And there's so many other things that we work with with sage that we could just go through this list of uses, but also kind of recategorize them again based on their energetic qualities. For example, it helps with perspiration, helps with excess perspiration. My wife, Serena, she used to be a pop singer in Italy, and she would drink sage tea for multiple reasons, but one was so that she wouldn't sweat on stage, so it wouldn't cause her to sweat. And they were pretty famous. Like, she was opening up for The Cure and like the Plaza of Rome, like big shows, right? And that was my wife. And it's funny because if she was watching this or listening to this now, she would be embarrassed. But she's a pretty big shot over there in Italy. And now that was one of the reasons, was that she wouldn't sweat like a Southern Baptist reverend that's, filled with the Holy Spirit and leaking out all over the pulpit. Oh, can I get an amen? And so to prevent the perspiration, again, astringent quality, tightening up what's leaking. Okay, but also because the flower of the sage. Let's see if I could find one with a flower here. The flower of the sage looks just like a little throat. Looks like a little singer. Here we go. So let's see. And that would be the signature for, let's see if I could find a good one here. Can you see that? Looks like a little singer. La. And so, yeah, the way that it resembles the throat or the mouth is how, this is another great virtue of this plant, is that it helps with communication. In all the ways of communication, of the gate of communication, which is the mouth, which is something that we sing out our truth and sing out our song, but also, as mentioned here in this comment, it's also for the whole health of the mouth. Oh yeah, and you noticed here how the sage leaf resembles a tongue in its like lance shape. I would say if your tongue looks like a sage leaf, that's definitely an indication for sage. As in, the tongue looks all dried and cracked. That's an indication of chronic dehydration. Not just hydration from water, but the hydration from the water-oil axis. Okay, so sage works great with the digestion of oils, and that's why one of the reasons why almost everybody has sage in their cabinet, in their spice rack, is because of Thanksgiving. Hey there, old world McMock. Nice to see you. Hope I said that right, but I love you too, bro. because of Thanksgiving, because people put sage in their stuffing. Why do they do that? Why is that the only recipe that a lot of people, like 90% of sad American diets only use sage once a year? Well, it's because it's really beneficial for breaking up and helping with digestion of fats, in particular the like super heavy meals. Thanksgiving, oh my gosh. Well, if you do it just right, you have a little sage tea and you get some fresh sage and you put it into your stuffing, and you really, maybe the sage flower essence, and you really just kind of like take on the archetype of spirit of sage. Not only will you be the best one to digest your food at Thanksgiving, but you'll be able to speak all the crazy things at Thanksgiving that all the other cousins that went for a walk are afraid to talk about. Yeah. That's the time to bring it up to all the people, right? Like, what's up with that one other building that fell down at free fall speed? Let's talk about stuff like that. So love it for the mouth, which is not only a portal for communication, but it's also the portal for the digestive aspect. It is awesome for I would say everything throat above, but even throat below too. Stimulates the gallbladder. I think sage is an amazing one for people who have gallbladder concerns, especially congestion in the gallbladder. Okay, again, the tonic action of astringency holds form. I always like to use this metaphor. I got two basketballs. Just pretend I got two basketballs in my hand. They both look the same size. And I drop one to the ground, and pump, it comes right back. Pump, pump, pump. I could dribble this one. I drop this other one to the ground, and it goes splat, and it doesn't come back up. They're the same size, though. One of them has that tone. It has not only the shape, but it has its tonal function. It has the pressure on all of the surface area on the outside. Not only because of what's being inflated into it, but actually the combination of that and the outside air too. And so that's what sage does. It's not like it pumps the organs up with air. It's that it tightens things up so that they can actually have that tone. Another way I like to do it is that I can have my guitar over here and I could take the string and dole, 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 tune it all the way down. And it's looking the same way on the neck as it was if it was dole, dome, 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 dome in tune. But once I play it, it's no longer going to have that same function. And so that's what sage does. It tightens that stuff up. But with the aromatics, the warming, stimulating, centrifugal releasing of congestion of aromatics, it helps remove congestion. And the places it likes to do that is in the mind, I should say memory, the mind, the field, the biofield, the gallbladder, and the throat chakra, mouth, tonsils, all that type of stuff. I even like swishing with sage for atonal gum tissue. What does that mean? It means if you take some floss and you floss your teeth and then you spit into the sink and people are wondering if you sacrificed something in your sink because there's so much blood, that's what I'm talking about. It tightens those tissues back up. So I would work with sage also for excess salivation. And this is another Thanksgiving. Here we are in the Enneagram on the 7. The the epicure. Smells good in here. What can I have? This reminds me the way that the gluttonous. I want to have it all. I want to have everything on my plate, including the pumpkin pie at the same time. Putting that into a more of an essence or the emotional, spiritual quality is how it can also tighten up that leaking, gluttonous, carnal lust for all flavors, if you will. I love working with sage as a fertility tonic because as it tightens and as it holds, it's also holding the space for the improvement of the function of the hormones. In the case of the drying up the breast milk, but also in the case of improving seminal fluid and even seminal retention. As in, you got to pluck out your eye because you're looking too much. But because it's a mercurial plant, and not a mercurial plant, but because it's a mint, I like it to think of it as a Sagittarian Jupiter plant, actually. Let's look at it again. One of the things about sage is how, especially this time of year, and I'm going to say this in my region, my bioregion, which is, there's no doubt about it to me. This is the most turquoise plant. It's so funny. When the sun is in the height of its season, it gets green. Once it starts going to the angle of Sagittarius, and the plant starts to hibernate a little bit for winter, it gets this bluish sharpness to it. It gets this turquoise color. And that turquoise color always reminds me of the sacred Jupiterian turquoise Thor that we have the turquoise on a Thor's day with our sage. And it helps us embody that spirit of that day. The day that we glutton ourselves on turquoise and turkeys. Yeah. Where was I going though? I had something in mind. Oh, fun. Yeah, I was talking about drying up secretions, including excess salivation and hormones, and improving the way that people might want to cultivate their relationship with abstinence, but also lack lust. Like people who lack lust, and that it improves by holding the space for the oils. It actually improves the capacity for one to express themselves and to feel everything that needs to be felt. And we can say that from the point of view of the turquoise and the turkey on the plate to the way that people are going to get down later in the bedroom. So because it's such a great ally for breaking up, I would say, fatty congestion in the diet, and this is something a lot of people are going through right now with, adding gravy to all of their leftovers, too much gravy. It's really, really, really beneficial for this in the body too, especially fatty tumors called lipomas. One of my students taught me this. They did a final project on sage a few years back, and the reason why they chose sage is because they had some fatty lipoma tumors throughout their arms, and so they were working with sage, and of course I started looking into it and started working with it, and it seems to be really, really effective at treating whatever that is. What's a fatty lipoma tumor? Oh, it's actually the intelligence of the body wrapping up, sequestering whatever hormones, fat, soluble toxicity, whatever, putting it all together and saying, I'm just going to put you over there and then we'll come back to you some other day. And when working with sage and improving our digestive cycle, improving the way that we express ourselves, and especially through the hormonal level and through the fat, that's what it's really helpful for. So we could not only lipomas and fatty tumors, but also breast cyst. There's a traditional use for that too. Another thing that comes to mind, and this is another traditional wisdom that I think would be well served by a lot of people over the last 5 years, is in terms of breaking up stagnation, and not just fat, but also in the blood, and that would be blood clots. So there's other plants that help move the blood, and sage doesn't do it so willy-nilly. Sage, because it's working on a hormonal level, it's helping break up whatever it is that seems to be causing the clotting of that blood, whereas other herbs like yarrow or maybe not so much yarrow, but cayenne just really invigorates the body. Cayenne is like the Aries. It's like, come on, let's go. We'll just ask for forgiveness later. And sage is like, no, before where we're going, we're going to just need to make sure that we blaze our trails first. And of course, sage is a very, very spiritual plant. And we have here, I burn a bit of sage when I pray every day. That's awesome. There's many different varieties of sage. And, you know, in like the metaphysical retail space, which is, by the way, a place like this. But in that type of world, people will come in and they'll ask for a particular type of sage, Salvia alpina, which is white sage. It's also called. We don't sell that intentionally. Of course, we could get some wrapped up or whatever, but I really like to encourage people to work with bioregional plants or ancestral plants, but certainly white sage. A lot of people recognize the hippies out there, the metaphysical hippies. By the way, that's Sagittarius. Speaking of the hips, Sagittarius rules the hips in all things bohemian and getting in your Volkswagen and going somewhere and not knowing where. They all know about smudging and saging. And so what is the word smudge? Is an old English word that means like burning plants, and it has a relationship, this old English word smodgen, smodgen, has more of a relationship with vermifuge, like getting insects out of the orchards, that kind of thing. So they would take big pots of aromatic herbs, thyme and rosemary and stuff like that, and they would burn them so that their apples wouldn't get a bunch of worms. But from a metaphysical view and from a vitalist view, that's the exact same thing. There's no delineation between the physical entity, which is brought on by the environment or the inability to care for the environment, and it has a role, it has an ecological function to break things down. Well, what about when we're talking about spiritually? What if we're tending our environment spiritually with intention, as our friend Old World Micmac says here, by burning and tending our field? Not only the spiritual field where we, as an energetic container, again, tightening and toning our energetic space to hold room for this prayerful, very Christ consciousness-like plant, very, very much associated with that kind of Christ consciousness, turquoise, third eye communication plant. But also for our emotional field, what are we going to speak? Can I speak truthfully what I see? And that's the, as we see here, seer's sage. Yeah. Another plant that's really famous in this genus is called clary sage, or Salvia sclarea. And sclarea is also the sclera of the eye. That's where that clary sage relates to clarity, or the ability to see things clearly. And again, Sagittarius, I see. So we have Salvia alpina, which is the white sage, which people can find, but I highly recommend your local or your ancestral, if you're of the European descent and your family cooked with this garden sage, it grows great. Oh, nice. It says, William Micmac would prefer burning sweetgrass, but sage burns better. I happen to agree. Yeah. I have my, I grow some sweetgrass, but I feel like, I've never got the blessing from sweetgrass. Like I get there's a lot of plants that I work with that have just been like, yeah, Kyle, here's our secret. We're definitely going to share things with you. Sweetgrass has always been kind of guarded in its in the way, and so therefore I don't understand it. Certainly I can go to my bookshelf over there and I can read everything I want about sweetgrass, but then that's that's the imposter syndrome, where I'm just kind of like repeating what other people say. The way that I like to teach is the way that I've liked to learn, and the way that I like to learn is through my experience and what things have taught me, what the plants have taught me. And so my lesson with sweetgrass thus far is you have to earn it a little bit harder than other plants. And maybe that's because I've never braided it before. Maybe I should do that next year. I should just braid it and see what happens. But that's also my experience with the sweetgrass. Not only that the sage burns better, but also to me, I get the clarity and the medicine of the sage. Like we got a relationship, and that's really what I want to show y'all, is that this is the way to develop the relationship, is through working with it, putting some sage, getting some sage, your local sage. Now, there's other plants that are not in the salvia or even the mint family that are called sages, like mugwort, for example. That's an artemisia, and that's in the daisy family. And there's Artemisia ludoviciana, and there's all kinds of sage brushes that grow in the mountain, but those are not the same, not even close to the same like type of plant. But the connection that they have, and the reason why they're called sages, is because they have that which salvia also has. The savior, salvia. Salvia comes from the word salvation. It's related to the word salvation, savior. And at the risk of creating a lesson that invites victim consciousness, I don't want to say that salvia or sages or anything save us. That's not what they do. They remind us of the lessons of Christ, and that the kingdom of heaven is within, and that our intention and the way that we relate to our land and to the medicine itself is far more powerful than any of the constituents or any of the compounds or any of the chemicals that they actually they try to extract from something that they consider dead. This is a conscious entity, and that's what it's teaching us. That's what sage, burning sage, is all about. The salvia, the savior, the salvation, and the kingdom of heaven is within. All right. Let's see here. There's also, here's another thing that sage is really helpful for, and this is something that I think is also applicable for Sagittarius, which is all about the locomotive aspects. Sagittarius is fire. It's mobile. It's the mutable fire. It wants to go. It wants to move. And so there's a strong relationship with Sagittarius and tendons. And if your tendons are, this is something that you might be able to picture, especially from like Thanksgiving or anyone who's ever cooked a bird, that the tendons can get really, really, really chewy and maybe not even desirable to eat because they lack the oil and they lack the suppleness that the rest of the meat has. And so if our tendons are lacking oil and lacking suppleness, and they're dry and they're dehydrated, and every time you get up and move around, it's like crack, crack, dry cracking, crack, 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 dry crack, dry crack. I think sage would be a really, really helpful one for you. Yeah. So as for tendon health, as a general tendon healer, let's see here. Yeah, salvage abilities, right on. Let's see here, anything else? Yeah, insect bites, all mint plants, really, really helpful for that. The other thing too about sage is that it can change all these properties could change according to the method of preparation. So off the plant, it's got more of its aromatic qualities. Once you put it into some tea, those are volatile oils. They're going to evaporate a little bit more, and what you get left with is the bitter qualities and the astringent qualities. That's going to be more helpful for digestion. If you get like a really plugged up nose, it's really like this one's dripping, this one's plugged, now this one's dripping, now this one's plugged, and it's kind of like in your ears, just like sinus congestion. Favorite thing, go out to the garden. Sage grows so well in so many different bioregions, but grab some of the sage, throw it into a pot, get it nice and steamy and covered. Sit yourself down, put a pot holder underneath, get a towel, and open that up just a little bit at a time, little bit at a time, little bit at a time, just like you're going into a hot tub, just a couple steps at a time, and then allow that. It's so easy and it's so effective, and it's really ubiquitous in European medicine. But over here in America, we're like, that sounds like interesting, but oh my gosh, to have a little mini spa with some sage or rosemary or whatever, but sage is really great for that. So we've talked about it, how it's clarifying, and in a way I could say clarifying and consecrating as almost a ritual tool, or an ally in that process, sage. Salvia divinorum. That's another one of the sages. That's a really fun one to talk about. But I did a podcast called Herb of the Week, and a few years ago, and I spent a lot of time talking about sage, over an hour, and and I talked about Salvia divinorum and this conversation that Terence McKenna had. And in the place that Salvia comes from, which is the mountains of, I don't know how to say this word, Oaxaca. I want to call it Oaxaca. All right, sorry. I don't know how to pronounce that. But that's where it comes from. It's called Ojos de la Pastora, which is the feminine word for the shepherd. So it's the eyes of the shepherdess, which is a very, very interesting name. And so anyway, I would invite you to take a listen to that episode if you want to get some more information on sage that wasn't included here today. But yeah, so anything else? Salvation, Sagittarius, the quacks and the quacksilver, and yes, here's what I wanted to say. One of the things that I started talking about is I'm doing a new podcast. It's going to be not necessarily live streaming. I'm going to be interviewing some really cool people. Next Wednesday, I'll be interviewing Topher Gardner of Biocharisma podcast, and so that'll be a great guest. And I'm really excited to get this podcast up and going. And it's called the Resonature podcast. A little pun, little new word. Oaxaca. Thank you. Oaxaca. All right. I appreciate that. That was really important. So yeah, check out the Resonature podcast. I probably will still just post things on this particular channel for a while, but that's where it will be. And anything else? Anybody want to jump on or anything like that? Anybody got anything else to say about sage? I'll tell you what, I love. Oh, one last thing. I consume sage prayerfully every day as well. Every morning I wake up and I pour myself a hot cup of water with a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of shilajit, and some chia seeds. Chia. And I'm old enough to remember that chia seeds were like you put them on a terracotta head and you would grow the hair like grass. But to the younger generation, they're like, what? Isn't that the stuff you put in smoothies? Well, the seeds of chia, which is Salvia hispanica, another sage plant, are mucilaginous. They structure the water. So again, helping with the retaining of that hydration aspect. And that's the way I love to start my day. I have a very high maintenance morning. But it's my first thing that I do is consume sage. So it would be remiss if I forgot to talk about that. Another thing too is, there's so many other sages I work with. Salvia bicalensis, which is Salvia militariza in Chinese medicine is Dan Shen. This is a great circulatory blood vessel tonic. It's awesome for that. So another one that I would probably work with for blood clots, if that was something that, came across my question to me. Russian sage. I don't know the botanical name of that one, but that's like the one that they plant in all of the fast food joints and coffee shops and the boulevards here in Milwaukee, and that's because it's hardy. It pretty much has been in bloom all summer long, and I never really made medicine with it because I'm always like walking past it, and there's always like, it's like kind of like the decorative thing, but I definitely have tasted it, and you get that buttery, bitter, sagey flavor to it. So it's there. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. And all of these like so-called uses and virtues is not the virtues and uses. I'm looking for those energetic qualities, how they come to my senses. All right. Well, for Sagittarius season, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate you. And I'll be doing these more often, and take a look for the Resonature podcast. Until next time, have a good one, y'all. Thanks for joining. Ciao.